Hello. So, first of all, excuse my face because my face has been going through it. Like, I just have been getting pimples for weeks now. But this is my book review for Beware of Pity by Stefan Zweig. Let me read the brief synopsis. So, Hofsmiller, an Austro Hungarian cavalry officer stationed at the edge of the empire, is invited to a party at the home of a rich local landowner, a world away from the dreary routine of the barracks. The surroundings are glamorous, and wine flows freely, and the exhilarated young Hofsmiller asks the host's lovely daughter for a dance, only to discover that her sickness has left her painfully crippled. It is a minor blunder that will destroy his life, as pity and guilt gradually implicate him in a well meaning but tragically wrong headed plot to restore the unhappy invalid to health. Some of the language here is very outdated. Um, but yeah, so basically, this man, after the actions of that night, asking her to dance, he feels an immense amount of pity and he feels bad for her, but he also feels personally guilty because, this is such a faux pas that he made. And in a way, he eventually becomes a daily routine of going there, or at least to kind of not, let's say, cater to the girl, but just like to talk to her, to talk to the family. And he gradually, gets kind of involved with the family. Um, Talking about the mechanics of this book, if that's the best way to phrase it, the way it's written is just it's just written so well. Like I bookmarked this passage here where he's describing basically, I don't want to spoil too much of the book, but he's describing what he thought of love in his youth. And, I just thought this was such a good passage. So I'm going to read a little bit of it. In my youth and comparative inexperience, I had always regarded the yearning and pangs of love as the worst torture that it could afflict the human heart. At this moment, however, I began to realize that there was another and perhaps grimmer torture, that of longing and desiring, that of being loved against one's will and being unable to defend oneself against the urgency of another's passion, of seeing another human being seared by the flame of her desire, and of having to look on impotently, lacking the power, the capacity, the strength to pluck her from the flames. He who is himself crossed in love is able from time to time to master his passion. For he is not the creator, but the creature, but the creator of his own misery. And if a lover is unable to control his passion, he at least knows that he is himself to blame for his sufferings. But he who is loved without reciprocating that love is lost beyond redemption. For it is not in his power to set a limit to the other's passion, to keep it within bounds, and the strongest will is reduced to impotence in the face of another's desire. Perhaps only a man can realize to the full the tragedy of such an undesired relationship. For him alone, the necessity to resist it is at once martyrdom and guilt. For when a woman resists an unwelcome passion, she is obeying to the full the law of her sex. The initial gesture of refusal is, so to speak, a primordial instinct in every female. And even if she rejects the most ardent passion, she cannot be called inhuman. But how disastrous it is when fate upsets the balance. When a woman so far overcomes her natural modesty as to disclose her passion to a man, when, without the certainty of it being reciprocated, she offers her love, and he, the wooed, remains cold and on the defensive. There's more, but I didn't want to read all of it. But I just thought the writing was immaculate, and I really think the narrator, technically the protagonist is the narrator. Why do I say technically? He is the narrator. And, the emotions he's feeling through, kind of like each domino that falls in the story, is very evident with just the words. And it's just very well done. The last book I read was a romance book, made, I don't know, God knows when, and the writing sucks. So this is a good, this is a good alternative. This was a good taste of writing. And so, talking about the themes of the book, obviously self-explanatory title, Beware of Pity. It really does delve deep into, how this man's, maybe it probably is well intentioned, but it is pity that he feels for this woman. It basically kind of entwines him into like this domino effect of things, of problems that happens that he is really just unequipped to handle. As I read with the current passage, she develops feelings for him. She assumes that he is enamored with her because he is always coming, he's visiting, etc. No, when in reality it is pity that he feels for her, and he comes, to try to, because he thinks it's his responsibility to try to make her life better for some reason. And so it's just like, it kind of brings light into these emotions, pity, guilt, even with, just guilt in general. Like a lot of times people say, oh, if you feel guilty about something, that's probably a good sign that you're a good person, because you have a conscience, etc. But also guilt can make us do some very bad things too, I would say. Or at least maybe it's not completely bad because he means to be well intentioned in this story, but it's like, I mean, he really doesn't think through. And you kind of realize his nativity in the book. And I think he's a pretty um easy, I don't want to say easygoing character, but he doesn't seem to think too much about the implications of his actions. And maybe, maybe that's just because he truly doesn't think that anything bad would happen. This is just, he's just doing what he can. Or, so it could be out of nativity, or it could be out of, just really just not realizing, oh, this may come off a certain way. Or, I mean, nobody thinks, oh, I'm gonna be nice to this person and then they're gonna fall in love with me. Well, maybe some people think that, I don't know. But so, but still, like, I do still, maybe that's not the best example, but I do still stand that within his writing, like, of course the writing is great, but within the emotions he feels, the way he's making decisions in the book, it really screams like he's naive, and he's just, he doesn't know how to handle this, and it makes sense because in a way he is also kind of, he's also a young man, I think he's like early mid-20s. I don't think it really says explicitly in the book, but I think that's what's assumed. So it's kind of self-explanatory. Like he's never really been, he's doing military service, and all of a sudden he's invited to this high class family and stuff like that, or wealthy family, and yeah, he's not that he doesn't know how to act, but he's just kind of like, maybe it's disillusionment, maybe it's you know urgency to appease people in society. And that's also what I got from this book, is that this guy, like, really really truly does care what others think, not to the extent where it's like, oh, close, some people care about what close friends think, they don't really care about, no, this guy really cares about how he looks in society, and it is very evident in the book too. And so of course, during this book was set, I think, early 1900s, so of course during that time, especially, like, I mean, during any time, like, obviously image matters, but I feel like obviously during these times, 1900s, the way you look, the way you were perceived by other people is everything. So it also kind of makes sense. So it really, he kind of gives, like, not like super young, but like young adult thrown into the world, and he has no idea what to do when it comes to these situations. So overall, I think it was a really great book. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. I thought it was really well written. I did read through it slowly, but I genuinely enjoy it. Usually, most of the time when I like a book, I read fast, but I did read through this slowly. But yeah, I did buy another book of his called The Post Office Girl, which I thought was also very interesting. But yeah, I really recommend this book. Um, and of course, this was written in the 1930s, so I feel like some language in here is obviously outdated. Um, but yeah, I still, overall, I thought it was a really great book to read. The next book I'm reading is Grotesque by Natsuo Kirino. I've read another book by her called Out. I didn't really do a review on it, because I read it before, excuse me, I made this channel. So, I'm looking forward to reading this. I'm going to start this tonight and hopefully read it quicker because I really do want to get to my reading goal because I did not do my reading goal last year. So, but and also I read like one book at a time. I've tried reading multiple books at a time. I can't do it. So, one book at a time. But yeah, I am going to be back with another book review once I finish Grotesque. And also, I hope to do kind of like a continuation on that video I made about giving up on love because it's been a few weeks. Maybe I'll wait another few months or whatnot. I don't know. But, you know, my mindset has been a lot better and it'd be great to talk about it. So, but yeah. Highly recommend. Highly recommend. I totally get why people put this as their favorite book now. Like, I get it. I get it. It's so well written.